Hi, Dr. Chaffee. Would love to hear your thoughts on Primal Bot saying that we should be eating lean meats. Yeah, that's one I've actually been meaning to do a video on. I don't think that's a great idea, and for a couple of reasons. Primarily, it's you need the fat. The fat actually is an essential nutrient. It's not just a calorie source. We need to stop thinking about eating fat makes you fat. It does not. It's a nutrient. It's an essential nutrient. It's an essential set of nutrients. There are essential fatty acids you have to have, or you can get sick and die. There are essential fat-soluble nutrients that you have to have, or you can get sick and die. The majority of the protein that your body wants to use is actually is physical structures and building blocks. Every single gene that your DNA codes for turns into proteins. It's strings of proteins. That's what it codes for. It's for amino acids to stack up in a line, and then it folds and twists around, and things are added to it and stuff like that. But the base core string that your DNA codes for are amino acids, right? So that's what your proteins get used for when you're consuming amino acids. That's what they get used for primarily, or making your proteins in your body, not just building muscle, but everything that your DNA codes for and makes are proteins. So that's what you use those for primarily. When you start using a majority of getting your majority of your energy from protein catabolization, breakdown, from amino acids, that can actually start to cause problems and can cause harm. It's called protein poisoning. And so if you're only eating lean meat, that you can do that for a while, but you're going to hurt yourself eventually. And so this is not a sustainable way of eating. And the whole point about this is we're giving people the tools to have a lifelong way of eating and habits that they can maintain a healthy lifestyle. So, because part of the program that the Primal Bod uses is lean meats and under 1,000 calories a day. Okay. So again, cut out the fat and don't eat much. And that's been the diet advice for the last 50 years, and it has not worked. It has not given people healthy, long lasting results because it's not something you can maintain long term because it's not healthy. And so I don't promote or support anything that's not healthy in the long run overall. There's a lot of ways to lose weight. You cut off your leg, you'll lose a bunch of weight. That's not healthy. And it's sort of insane as an extreme example, but it's the same thing. You're doing something that's not healthy for you long term. You're damaging yourself, right? And you can cut off your leg or your foot and you can lose weight that way. Is the goal to lose weight, or is the goal to be healthy and to achieve a healthy weight and body composition because you're healthy, right? People in concentration camps lose a lot of weight. Is that a good way of doing it? No, of course it's not. And it's not sustainable. What do you do after the fact? What do you do after that? They do this 3-month program. They spend thousands of dollars, which is right there is a problem for me, because this information is everybody's birthright. You should know how to eat properly. People should not be profiteering off of this. Let's be frank. This information that they use, this carnivore sort of lifestyle, it came from other people's research, and then they're profiteering off this, charging thousands of dollars to then do it wrong and tell people to eat very lean, less than 1,000 calories a day. They make them sign non-disclosure agreements. So they say you're not allowed to talk about, don't talk about Fight Club sort of thing. But I've had people privately say to me that they've had very serious health issues as a result of this, losing hair, sort of destroying their skin, having all sorts of really bad hormonal issues, just trashing their hormones, losing their periods, all these sorts of things. It really, really messes them up. And then they get through it. And not everybody loses weight, but a lot of people do, because you're starving yourself and you're malnourished, so that's not a good way of losing weight, whether or not you lose weight. But then what are you doing after that? What's the step off from there? Okay, you've lost a bunch of weight. Now what do you do? Because you can't just eat lean meat and under 1,000 calories a day for the rest of your life. You'll die, right? You'll get protein poisoning. You'll get very sick. You need the fat. The fat's actually really important. And so, people don't have a step off after that. They crash diet, but then they crash and then they rebound and they don't know how to eat now. They haven't been given those skills and tools for the long term. And then they sort of go back to what they were doing before, and all goes to hell. So What I think is the right way to do it, which is why I do this way, is you do it the right way from day one. You eat fatty meat till it stops tasting good. You do it as often as your body tells you to, and you stop when it stops tasting good, and you don't eat anything else. Okay. So that's getting ourselves pure nutrition. It's giving ourselves exactly what we need. We're excluding the things we don't need and don't want. And we're letting our body get on with this. And so we're letting our body heal. Now you can force yourself to lose weight faster, cut your leg off, etc. But that's not what's going to give you long-term health and overall health. It can trash your hormones. You could lose your hair and all these sorts of things. Now, going into ketosis, sometimes it triggers a hair loss phase anyway, but it grows back. In these cases, the hair wasn't growing back. It was going away and it was staying away. And so, that's not sustainable. There's also an argument. I mean, when people eat more fat, they actually trigger weight loss. Why is that? Because when you eat less protein, it actually triggers something called FGF21, which is a hormone that triggers lipolysis, that increases fat burning. And so studies have shown that if you decrease your protein down around 9% calories, total calories, right? And this is where the sugar diet, comes from, where the sugar diet, they eat a whole bunch of sugar, very little fat, very little protein, and they actually trigger FGF21. But there's actually recent studies been published doing the whole bunch of carbs and sugar and that malnourished sort of garbage, which will make you very sick, will make you hyperglycemic, will give you metabolic disease, metabolic syndrome, diabetes, massive glycation issues all over your body. And it's not complete nutrition, is it? So that'll cause long-term harm, but you do lose weight because of the FGF21 being stimulated because of the low protein. But then they flipped it and they said, okay, what about low carb, high fat, low protein? Exact same results, right? So it's a consequence of the protein. So in fact, that's a little backwards anyway, because if you get lower protein, you'll actually trigger FGF21. So if your only goal is just fat loss, it's actually better to eat more fat and a moderate to low amount of protein. And that can actually trigger fat loss. And that's what a lot of people see is when they do carnivore and they're eating fatty meat and they're losing weight. A lot of people lose a lot of weight and there's no problem. Some people sort of hit a bit of a stall, and it's not until they start increasing the fat from there that they actually push through that stall and start losing weight, probably because of that FGF21 being stimulated as well. So, but my thoughts are you do things that are healthy, because this is about health first. Very distant second is body composition, losing fat, putting on lean body mass. Nowhere on there is scale, right? Because the scale does not tell you about your health or your body composition, right? And those are only two things that matter. Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor at Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is to just eat meat. For those times that you're out hiking, road tripping, or stuck at work and you want a nutritious snack that is just meat, fat, and salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. So I like this product not because it's just pure meat, but also because I want the carnivore market to thrive as well. And the more we support meat-only products, the more meat-only products that will be available in the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to get behind, check it out using my discount code Anthony to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25% off total. All right, thanks guys. Health being of utmost importance. And so when you're doing these things like these crash diets, starvation diets, taking Ozempic, only eating lean protein, you're going to lose weight. And are you sure that that's just fat that you're losing? Are you losing lean body mass as well? You could well be. Less likely because you're getting enough protein, so you may be able to maintain that, but you never know. You are trashing your hormones. You are trashing your health. You are becoming malnourished. That will happen, and that can negatively affect your lean body mass as well. Ozempic, we all know that does. 40% of the weight that people lose on Ozempic without major dietary changes in a positive direction, 40% of the weight that they lose are actually lean body mass, and that's very hard to get back. And then when they regain the weight, and they do regain the weight because they're not told about nutrition. And so when they stop the Ozempic, they regain the weight, but it's only fat. And so in fact, they've gained more fat than they lost, but they've lost lean body mass as well. So it's the scale says they're about the same or maybe a bit less, but in fact, they've gained more fat and have less lean body mass. And again, scale cannot tell you about body composition, and that's much more important. That we use the scale as a surrogate for body composition, but it is not the case. It cannot tell you that. get worse. But definitely pasture raised is what you want to do, because they're not being, well, they're not going to be fed as much of this garbage. They're at least out on grass where they have